So now let's talk about the reading section of the Compass test. You'll come across 5 types of reading comprehension passages on this test. There aren't separate tests for us for social studies and science, so instead they put passages, reading passages they want to see if you can understand. You'll have a passage that deals with practical reading, which is like how to, prose fiction, which could be short stories, could be poetry, the humanities, which deals with the arts, it could be a passage about music or art, social sciences, and then also one on natural sciences. There are going to be some main areas of focus and some key phrases I want you to watch for that will help you determine how to answer the questions. One is the main idea. They're going to ask you about the main idea. We call it the central idea also. Same thing. Look for this wording. It'll say the main idea of the passage is, or the central point of the passage is, a possible title for this passage is, the author's primary point is, or what the author of passage is primarily concerned with is. And here's a little hint about the main idea. At the top of the actual passage, there's a focus question. That's almost always part of the main idea. Here's some information about details. You're going to look for this wording and details. The passage or author states, the passage says, according to the passage, which of these details, which of these facts. If they ask you about details, the answer is always going to be directly stated in the passage somewhere. You just have to find it. They're going to ask you inference questions. When you infer something, that means it's not directly stated. It's where you're drawing conclusions on your own. Look for this wording. The passage implies, suggests, the author probably supports, the author might agree, the reader can infer, the reader can conclude, or the reader can assume that. All these things mean it's not directly stated. Patterns of organization is always a popular question that they ask on the Compass test. How is the passage set up? Is it descriptive, where you see figures of speech and imagery? Is it narrative, where there's a story being told? Is it persuasive, opinionated? Is it spatial, which means it deals with how things are organized in an area? Like it might say this is over here and this is over there. And then lastly, purpose. We've talked about purpose in class before. What's the purpose for the piece? Is it to entertain, inform, persuade, etc.? What's the tone? Is the tone positive, negative, or neutral? And remember, the tone is the writer's attitude toward what he's written. And then lastly, when it comes to vocabulary, they'll often ask you about a word, and if you just for the context clues, going to help you with those answers. So now you know some things to watch for when you're taking the Compass reading test. This is what the test looks like that you're about ready to do as a practice. Please notice it says the Compass reading test is untimed, and it is. If you need more time past the time that they've set aside, you can keep working. It is untimed. Make sure you read all the questions before you read the passage. Make sure that you read all the passage and answer all the questions before you click on the Go On button. Once you click the Go On button, you can't go back and change your answer. So the Compass reading test looks a little bit like the writing test that you practiced. On the left-hand side will be the passage that you read. And remember that there's more at the bottom. You have to scroll down and then scroll back up again. On the right-hand side, you'll see the questions. There'll be several questions for each passage. It's a good idea to go through the questions and read them first, so you know the types of things to look for in the passage. So you'll go through the questions, read through the passage, find the answer you want. You'll continue to do that, but then you need to notice when you're done, a little check mark pops up in each box to indicate that you've answered it. Just because you've answered it doesn't mean that you can't go back and make a change. Once you press Go On, you can't go back. But until you press the Go On button, you can go back and click on each of the boxes that has the check mark and check your answer and make sure it's the answer that you want. Once you've done that, then you can hit the Go On button. And remember, once you hit Go On, you can't go back and change an answer again. So now it's time for you to practice.